The Shark Deck.
Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news, and this time I pushed the red button that says record. It's right next to the green button that hit play. Luckily, I caught that 3 minutes in and not 20 minutes in. Yikes. Hi. I watched Michelle Wolf's special last night. I loved it. You've heard me talk about it. It comes in 3 parts. The first third is the best. I'm like, oh, wow, this is going to make a run here. The next best segment is the third segment, which was a little shorter. I was like, oh, that's it. I wanted more. To be honest, I caught myself during the second segment, especially the first half of the second segment. I caught myself playing on my phone and I had zoned out a little bit. So, other than that, though, but the second half of the middle, fantastic. Liked it a lot. I'll tell you where it is on my end of year list. That's what I just did when I noticed, oh, you're not actually recording, John. You're just talking to yourself. Michelle recently caught up with Rolling Stone and talked about living in Barcelona. That's mentioned in the special and how Barcelona compares to New York. Michelle said, I still have a place in New York City. It's really nice. But even just aside from work, there's a tension in America right now that is very palpable. When you leave and you come back, there's a tension here I don't feel when I'm in Europe. And they want to have a good life there. They really value their free time, their family, and their community. Spain is like, you guys can make all the money you want, but we're going to take 2 hours off in the afternoon, get a coffee, and then we're going to come back, work like a half hour more, and then we're going to have a glass of wine and a snack, and then we're going to take a month off in August to really wind down. I think that's nice. I loved Barcelona when I was there, even though somebody stole my credit card, you rotten scoundrel, you. But I caught that like immediately and called my banker, Jason. I was like, Jason, cancel my credit card. And then I had to borrow money from my son for like a week. Michelle added, I don't know what we're grinding for here in the States. Part of the reason people grind so hard here is because they need money to pay for all the things we have to pay for. Healthcare, student debts, childcare, any number of things. You don't feel that in Europe, and that's nice. It's one of the things the pandemic pointed out to me when I wasn't working. I was like, what do I have other than work? I wanted to have a life and a family, and by family, I mean a collection of actual family and friends whose company I can enjoy. So it was a pandemic move to Barcelona. And then this is interesting. She said, toward the end of the pandemic, I spent most of it in Ohio with Dave Chappelle. Donnell Rawlings was there. Mo Amer was there. And then there were a lot of comedians who'd come in, do shows, and leave. I was there from March 2020, and I don't think I got back to New York until late October. I eventually got my own place there, too. I can't say enough good things about Dave's family and the community. Dave is the kindest, most generous person I know, and he's also great at comedy. So let me tell you where Michelle Wolf lands on the rankings so far. I'm not going to do the entire ranking. I'll give you the top 10. The best comedy special of the year so far is Todd Barry's Domestic Short Hair. You'll find that on YouTube. Tom Segura at 2, Kyle Kinane 3, Nate Bargatze. Michelle Wolf comes in at number 5, knocking Jane McBride's Daddy's Girl down to 6. Jim Jeffries, Hari Kondabolu, Chris Rock, and Jimmy O. Yang is your top 10. And it was at that point I was like, oh, you're not actually recording. So that's good. So for the rest of what you're going to hear today, I haven't done it already. It's amazing. I've been doing this 4+ years. I think that's the first time I actually made that particular error. Not too bad. Speaking of Michelle Wolf, Anthng Devito is a former writer on The Break with Michelle Wolf. And the 800-pound gorilla inside blog tells us Anthng Devito's special Brain Noise is available for free on YouTube. Anthng Devito knows how to shape a joke. From language to pacing, Devito is a consummate seasoned voice working at the height of his ability. It's a pleasure to watch him present jokes that often focus on being stuck in poorly thought-out situations and to chuckle in awe at their absurdity. Anthng Devito's good. Check it out. Brain Noise on YouTube. Another comedian to keep an eye on. This guy's going to blow up, and this might be what does it. Ralph Barbosa, Cowabunga, coming to Netflix on Halloween. He filmed that back in August at the Kessler Theater in Barbosa's hometown of Dallas. He's real good. Keep an eye. One special you can't watch is Russell Brand in New York City because Paramount Plus took it down. They didn't give a reason why. I don't know. Why do you think? I don't know. I have no idea. Why would they take a Russell Brand special down? That's weird. At the time of this recording, though, if you're on Netflix, you can still watch Russell Brand Rebirth. The BBC also removed some programs featuring Russell Brand. A spokesperson said, the BBC doesn't ban or remove content when it's a matter of public record unless we have justifications for doing so. There's limited content featuring Russell Brand on iPlayer and Sounds. We reviewed that content and made a considered decision to remove some of it, having assessed that it now falls below public expectations. The removed content includes an episode of QI and a Joe Wicks podcast that had Russell Brand as a guest. I saw some internet buzz about Bill Hader's Van Halen impressions. He was on The Best Show. They were doing a 24-hour live stream, and in hour 17, Bill Hader popped on. And we learn that he has a text chain with Fred Armisen and John Mulaney where they role play as the Van Halen brothers. I pulled a clip. The higher pitch voice is Hader doing Eddie Van Halen. The secondary voice that doesn't say much is Hader doing Alex Van Halen. Let's listen.
This guy, he goes out there on Bobby, but it was totally disrespectful to Beck.
Totally disrespectful. Beck, it was Beck's moment.
It's totally disrespectful to Beck.
And so I would call those guys as Van Halen brothers. And then John Mulaney and Fred Armisen and I had a text chain as the Van Halen brothers rear-ending somebody.
I mean, all right. I don't think they're the best impressions. Craig Gass does a fantastic Eddie Van Halen impression because he lived with Eddie for a while. I went to try and find a clip of it and I couldn't. Billy Mira does a fantastic David Lee Roth here.
Got a brand new album. We got a brand new tour. Still got the same old funky attitude. Yeah. Woo!
And the reason I know that is back when I was at Sirius and Jim Brewer was the afternoon host, we one time before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame reunited Dave and Eddie on the phone. It was Billy and Gass doing the characters, and it sounded so amazing. The next day, somebody told Howard Stern that Brewer had Dave and Eddie on, and they played the clip, and Howard kind of believed it for a second before Howard's a sharp tool. He figured it out, but we had a little buzz going there. We weren't trying to prank the world. We were just having fun with the whole thing, but they both do great voices there. Adam Ray, you know him from Arrested Development and Curb and some other things. He'll be taping his new special in Madison, Wisconsin, Comedy on State. Tapings tonight through the 23rd if you want to check that out. The New York Times wrote about Strike Force 5. That's the podcast with the late night hosts. They kind of nailed it. They said, in theory, the podcast sounds like the late night equivalent of The Avengers. In practice, it's more like comedians in cars getting coffee. You know, I got distracted mid-sentence because I was like, are you actually recording? And I had to check. It's more like comedians in cars getting coffee, decaffeinated. It's an amiable, shapeless session of 5 peers busting chops, trading shop talk, and occasionally reading sponsor ads like modern-day Joe Franklin's. By the way, quality control people, dudes, some of those commercials are recorded so low. And I have a question about every episode. Why is John Oliver in a cave? We can't get John Oliver a good mic? You want me to record it for you? I can EQ it for you? There are things we can do to fix bad audio, guys. What are we doing? The Times writes, but other than its mission statement, which is to raise money to support the hosts' out-of-work staffs, it's only rarely about the strike. In episode 3, Colbert surprises his co-host by having an AI read ads in their voices. And he says, this is why the Guild's got to hold the line. This is why SAG's got to hold the line, because we're all going to be replaced by robots by Christmas if we don't. Whoopi Goldberg has come to the defense of Hasan Minhaj. You may have heard on this very podcast, Hasan embellished some stories and is being criticized for that. I'll have more about that on the weekend. Whoopi said, that's what we do as comedians. That's what we do. We tell stories and we embellish them. If you're going to hold a comic to the point where you're going to check on stories, you have to understand a lot of it is not the exact thing that happened, because why would we tell exactly what happened? It's not that interesting. There's information we'll give you as comics that will have grains of truth, but don't take that to the bank. That's our job, a seed of truth. Sometimes truth and sometimes total BS. Yes, the formula is often a thing that actually happened exaggerated, thing that didn't happen at all but sounds like it could have to give you the laugh, and then later on you do the callback. I get it, Whoopi, but we'll get into Hasan on the weekend. JFL Toronto kicks off today. I really considered going up there. If you've been listening, I've been sort of mentioning now and then. My mom has been various degrees of ill, so I just didn't make any plans to run up to Toronto. And I didn't even have a minute to reach out to JFL to ask for interviews. I love doing the things with Montreal, and it was in the back of my mind. So I didn't really have an opportunity to reach out to JFL. But I've done the Toronto Festival. It is really good. So if you're a relatively new listener, what I do with the bigger festivals is I take a look at the schedule and I make some recommendations as to what you and I would do if we were at the festival on a particular night. So listen to this. This is just night one, okay? Here are the choices for us at 7 o'clock. We could see An Evening with the Office Ladies, Ron Funches, Deanne Smith, Andrea Jin, Mark Forward, or Michelle Bateau. By the way, I really like how they did the calendar on this one. Sometimes the schedules are a little hard to figure out, but they've put them together in such a nice format here. All right, the 8 o'clock shows, Wayne Jones and Friends, Thursday Laugh Therapy, Antidepressant Thursdays, Allison Liebly, and the Main Stage 88 Review, 8:30, Best of Absolute Comedy, 9 o'clock, Ron Funches, Andrea Jin, Deanne Smith, 9:30, Sam Morrell, 9:30, Michelle Bateau, 10 o'clock, Laugh Sabbath, I don't have a description, 11 o'clock, Alternative Show or Joe DeRosa, 11:30, Midnight Madness, and Late Bad at 12:30. All right, that's just night one, okay? And this thing goes on for over a week. If you and I were there, what would I tell us to do? Let's see, the 7 o'clock shows. Let's do Ron Funches. If we have time at 8 o'clock, let's pop into like something, one of the smaller shows, and maybe something like Thursday Laugh Therapy, because we'll have to leave early to hit a 9 o'clock show. At 9 o'clock, let's do, you know what? Let's not do anything at 9 o'clock. Let's see Sam Morrell at 9:30. That'll take us to 10:30 plus. So then 11 o'clock, let's do the alternative show. And then for this mental exercise, I'll tell you, let's hit Late Bad at 12:30. But in reality, if you were actually traveling with me at 12 o'clock after having seen 3-4 comedy shows, I'm going to murder you unless we go back to the hotel because I need to sleep. Just being real. Johnny Mac likes his sleep. Also kicking off the High Plains Comedy Festival. Westword.com tells us South Broadway is set to become the epicenter of hilarity. The High Plains Comedy Festival celebrates its 10th anniversary. It began as a dream by comedian and festival founder Adam Clayton Holland. It's grown into Denver's largest and longest-running stand-up comedy extravaganza. More than 100 of the funniest comedians from across the globe will show up for the 3 days. Clayton Holland says he got the idea for High Plains when he was doing Bridgetown, a comedy festival in Portland. He describes that experience as being like a summer camp for comedians. I just checked to see it was recording again. I'm so paranoid now. And as you know, it apparently recorded because you're hearing this conversation. Clayton Holland said there'd be big names at Bridgetown, but they also had a really good eye for up-and-comers across the country. It was just bringing the coolest comedy party to Portland. And after attending, I knew Denver needed that. And I came home with a fire under my ass to start it. It's an indie festival, so when it started, I'd reach out to my friends and wouldn't go through the industry and all that stuff. Over the years, it's just kind of gotten more elaborate. The beginning was just a few comedy shows that I got all my famous friends to do. Now it's way more orchestrated. Tonight, 6 o'clock, it begins at the Bobcat Club. Beth Stelling and Friends at 7, All Comedy Everything at 8, Chris Gethard and Friends at 9, and the High Plains Karaoke Kickoff After Party at 10. Now, you don't need me to make any decisions for you because they're all laid out nicely. You could hit all of them. That seems like a good festival. Couple tours kicking off. Ben Schwartz and Friends. You may know Ben Schwartz from Parks and Rec. You may know him as the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. His tour tonight in D.C., Radio City on the 23rd, counting on my fingers, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wow, not bad. Then a little gap, Minneapolis, Chicago, Seattle, L.A., Houston, and Dallas on November 29th. And from TalkSport, comedian Lionel Messi was kissed on the neck by an Argentine comedian. Comedian Miguel Granados published a clip of himself kissing Messi. TalkSport tells us Messi smirked in anticipation of the kiss and let out a smile, with the 9-second clip being viewed more than 1 million times on Twitter. That's fun. Also, my little podcast network here, we have a podcast called The Messi Effect, where we talk about Messi, but we don't really talk about the soccer stuff. So if you're looking for like a soccer podcast, we're not really doing that. We're more into like the glitz and the glamour and the Miami and comedians kissing Messi on the neck and hamburgers named after Messi and all the like silly stuff that goes with Messi. It's been a lot of fun doing that one. That's called The Messi Effect, wherever you get your shows. And that is your comedy news for today. If you like what I do here, tell a friend about it. Trying to grow the show a little. Every little bit helps. Appreciate you. See you tomorrow.